A couple very interesting things are coming up right now. One of those is a Hong Kong official stablecoin that's supposed to compete with USDT and USDC, which are the two major stablecoins out there right now. Now, you might think that this is not a big deal. This is a huge deal because USDT, USDC both are being fudded to the freaking ground. Hopefully, you remember that USDT got a lot of FUD for having these Chinese notes, and USDC got a lot of flack not even too long ago that made the price dump about 9%. For a stablecoin, that's detrimental. So the fact that Hong Kong is actually saying, hey, we over on a government level want crypto to thrive, so we need a good stablecoin, that's very interesting. But trust me when I say that that's small news in comparison to everything going on in the background right now. And I'm talking about a background that from another perspective is actually completely the foreground, and that is also split up into two sides. Now, there's Mark Cuban, John Reed Stark discussion. John Reed Stark is an ex-SEC official. Mark Cuban is a billionaire. I think everybody knows Mark Cuban. And then there's a little bit more, which we're going to talk about in just a second, but let's quickly dive in to exactly what is happening with the John Reed Stark, Mark Cuban situation, as it's partially about CBDC, partially about the US's inaction with FTX. So basically, John Reed Stark is an official who's very much in favor of getting crypto smacked into the ground. I've had multiple discussions with this man live on the air, and we never see eye to eye. He says the creation of CBDC is perhaps the most absurd financial idea in the modern history of monetary policy. First off, just like with crypto and stablecoins, you must begin by answering the question of what problem does a CBDC actually solve? Why do we need a CBDC? And there's no answer to any of these questions, basically. Now, I can't say I'm for CBDC because at the end of the day, I personally think it's only being created for the government's benefit to either control you better or to have more efficiency in their stupid system. So I don't necessarily see this as a CBDC being made for you or having any benefit for you. Don't get it twisted. I do believe that, for example, something like the XRP ledger could greatly benefit from CBDC, but that is just the lesser of evils. If you have either CBDCs fully developed by banks and central government, completely outside of our system, or CBDCs that are bad running on a system that we approve of and like, perhaps, that could have at least a plus in the whole array of negatives, right? So I'm not fully against his stance on CBDC. You know, that's completely fine. It's mostly when he starts talking about crypto, which is hidden away in the entire thread here of his. Crypto enthusiasts will undoubtedly argue that the same risks that exist for crypto also exists at banks. After all, consider the recent collapses of Signature, SVB, Republic, and other regional banks, but just compare banks with crypto firms to see if that argument actually holds up. Banks are heavily regulated, and depositors generally have a broad range of proven and time-tested projections. In stark, funny because his name is Stark, contrast with crypto firms, there's no insurance. Keep this in the back of your head. No regulatory oversight, no consumer protections, no examinations, no auditing, no licensure, no mandated cybersecurity standards, no fiduciaries, which I guess there kind of are, no segregator of customer assets, which again, there kind of is. No rules against insider trading, which again, there kind of are. Or market manipulation, which again, there kind of are, but okay. No traditional protections of any kind, which renders the entirety of the crypto ecosystem not just unsafe and dangerous, but also easily susceptible to fraud, grift, and chicanery. I'm not even sure what the frig that's supposed to be. Now, please don't let me dive too deep into all his words. Let's just quickly go to Mark Cuban's statement by stating, you should read up on how Japan deals with regulation. When FTX crashed, no one in FTX Japan lost any money. And I believe that FTX US was also for the most part fine, actually. But if the US of A and the SEC had followed their example by setting clear regulations that required the separation of customer assets and business funds and clear wallet requirements, no one here would have lost money with FTX either. But of course, they chose to litigate to regulate. You need to face the fact of the matter that crypto is one more technology that will succeed or fail based on its merits. It's the SEC that chose the wrong path to regulate crypto and cost billions. Because at the end of the day, if all the rules were very clear, if all the rules were done properly, and guys like Coinbase, Binance, FTX, all had to adhere by strict rules because they were reasonable within the space, they probably all would. Because why would they not? They want to operate in the US. And I mean, at the end of the day, you can't fully do it illegally because you're just going to get completely shut down. But it's unreasonable, some of the things they're asking of now, and just completely unclear. If they were just really ready to sit down and talk, like Coinbase has been requesting for a while, I think most of these crypto companies would be at the front door to go sit down and make things done properly. A good example is Ripple. The SEC is not infallible. It makes mistakes. And in this case, it chose the wrong course. It was arrogant in thinking that its framework covered every possible situation, which it didn't. But so now, we can't just say, oh, crypto has all these bad parts, because at the end of the day, it's what they made it to be. And then John Reed Stark had a response saying, I get it, Mark. I have some criticism about the SEC too. But respectfully blaming the SEC for dumpster fires like FTX, full stop there. FTX was for a very big part the SEC's fault. You cannot claim otherwise. Why? Because let's keep it PC. Gary Gensler met up with the guys so much, and he was so tightly connected that there was no way he couldn't have properly figured all this stuff out if they'd done their job properly. If they really claim they're the freaking iron fist of crypto, they're here to make sure everybody's safe, they should have known. There's no way they couldn't have known if they really wanted to. And so you might state, well, BlockFi or one of the other ones, he couldn't have, sure. And even here, why earn from Gemini? I think a lot of these things are also a matter of if they made sure that some products were just officially allowed that are reasonable, like for example staking, a lot of this like yield with no explanation couldn't be done because that way they have to hide things, right? Anyway, this man keeps on saying that the SEC has saved millions, perhaps even billions in investor crypto losses. The SEC stopped Telegram from defrauding investors with an emergency TRO, stopped BlockFi from doing to its investors what Celsius did to theirs, stopped Coinbase from selling a crypto lending product, and brought 150 plus crypto cases without a loss. And they've apparently never as aggressively shared their views through speeches, investor alerts, a rare Section 21 report of investigation, congressional testimony, and many SEC statements and proclamations. As a response to which I like to say, so when Gary Gensler was asked, what about Ethereum? What do you think about it? He couldn't answer the question. Do you guys remember this day where, well, basically a lot of fun things came on top of Gary Gensler's head? He was asked if Ethereum is a commodity or security or how exactly it works, and he really wasn't ready to answer that question. And now, again, to the same question or the same assertion, I'd like to bring up that really, even though they've made a lot of aggressive shares of their views, it's still not really obvious what exactly is and what isn't good. Because, well, Mr. Hinman's speech was quite confusing. And I'd like to state that I don't think anybody is asserting the opposite. And Mark had a good response as well, where FTX was obviously a fraud issue, which almost had nothing to do with crypto. In theory, this could have happened with a bank as well if the proper checks weren't in place. At the end of the day, they used crypto, but they could have done every single thing they did here with just the normal traditional banking system or any other platform in that nature. I guess the whole fact that it was a crypto thing didn't matter here because it was just people having money on somewhere, which could have been a bank, could have been an investment platform, could have been anything. And that company had an investment arm, and they basically mingled the funds between their investment arm and their official operations. And what's the worst possible way to stop any fraud? Is to just say, come in and talk to us, and then not open your doors, basically. What's the best way? Make sure the rules are freaking clear. And make sure they're bright and forward, like in Japan. Yeah, this discussion goes on for a little bit and was very interesting to me. I like it that they keep saying with all respect, right? But the discussion is ongoing as this was posted about 5 minutes ago, the last post here. And he basically is stating, Japan is really clear. The rules are very straightforward. All guys have to register and nobody loses money. And everybody's willing to register. And then some choose not to work in Japan, and that's their choice, right? Because the rules are there and some cannot follow those rules. In the US, there's a 0 registered exchanges that are actively trading tokens because, well, nobody knows how or how it works. But there are a number of platforms here in the USA, which is the exact opposite of Japan. One approach is working and the other is not. And the regulation style apparently does work. The SEC's does not, because obviously they didn't decide to make rules, they just decided to sue. And I could go sit here for another hour explaining how the SEC is doing things wrong. It's just they need to come to their senses, which is why I made the previous video talking about how somebody should go sue them or something. And that brings me to the point that I tried to make earlier in the video. Hong Kong is one of those countries that's now basically following Japan of, let's make sure that everything is done right. Let's make sure that everybody can join the game that we want to allow in. Let me rephrase that. So Hong Kong is not following the style of come in and see, no, they're making the freaking rules, and companies that want to comply, they can probably come in and do their thing, and companies that don't like the rules probably will get the frick out, right? And that's the way to go about it. Hong Kong has literally taken all the different steps to make sure this ecosystem can thrive and that Hong Kong gets all the freaking money. That's it, right? And they can make the rules however they want because they have at least a progressive and happy climate where at least they're allowing for some stuff instead of like just not necessarily allowing anything, but just not refusing everything, which is basically the US's approach to things. So this stablecoin, in my opinion, could be the biggest in the world if they handle it properly. And knowing Hong Kong, there's a good chance they will. So it could literally be so that a government-backed cryptocurrency, or sorry, I should call it a stablecoin, is going to be the next big thing for crypto. I'm not sure if that's good or bad, but it could be the next big thing. And that leaves me to wonder what the US is going to react to that like that at. What are the responses going to be from all these other places around the world if a government were to issue a proper stablecoin? How are the regulations for that going to be? How is it going to work? Is it going to be as tradable as USDT or USDC, or only going to be used on Hong Kong exchanges? Because it's going to be pegged to the Hong Kong dollar, and so it's not going to be as popular, right? Well, at least for now. But it's going to be the next big thing. It's going to be so interesting. Another side note of something that you guys might find cool. If you guys remember Neum, which used to be called InstaRem, partner of Ripple, a $2 billion Ripple partner Neum is about to go public over in the US. Singapore-based Neum has announced plans to go public in the United States by Q2 of 2025. The reason this is quite peculiar and interesting is because they're a Ripple partner. And so I wonder exactly how that's going to go. If they're going to go public, is it going to be similar to what happened with the whole MoneyGram debacle? Or what is the SEC going to be saying over their partnership with Ripple? Because again, they've been partnered since 2020, and the tie-up was designed to facilitate instant, low-cost international transactions. One thing I was a little bit confused about is that it says they've been partnered since 2020, maybe officially. Ripple-powered Neum, this is in 2019, partners with Visa to enable instant payments to Indonesia. And if you guys remember a while ago, the reason this is all so peculiar is because a while back, and I keep thinking about the lawsuit in these terms, a while back, MoneyGram said, hey, Ripple, your ODL should expand a little bit quicker, even though Ripple tried, but it couldn't, and eventually faced a lot of pressure. But they were so interested in working with them, except for the fact that Ripple was expanding quite slowly. And then all of a sudden, they let everything slide, even though it was quite juicy, mostly because of the SEC, as far as I believe. And now the official Ripple blog post is actually either taken down or I can't access it over here in Thailand, or the link has changed. But a while back, I think a couple years ago, if I remember correctly, 2019, Ripple posted a list of all these companies that are using ODL, one of which, again, is Neum in this list, formerly InstaRem. And so it's quite peculiar, or at least they were going to be using ODL, which again is the product of Ripple's net that utilizes XRP. And so the fact that they're going public is again a very interesting part in all this. But yeah, I'll be researching it a little bit more and then giving you guys an update, probably somewhere later. What I will say for right now, guys, is two things. One, press that like button because I forgot to say it at the beginning of this video, which is sad on my part. Oh, stupid. Anyway, also make sure that if you want to keep yourself up to date with all the most important and latest crypto news, that you push that notification button, click, whoa, because what if something crazy happens? What if Ripple lawsuit ends? What if Gary Gensler, gets sued or something like that? You want to be notified as soon as possible. And usually, if some breaking news, something crazy happens, I go live instantly. The moment it happens, regardless of where I am, I got my people sending me stuff. And so the moment I see a juicy snap, all the alarm bells start ringing and I go live. So make sure that you've got the notification bell on, and hopefully I'll see you guys again in another crypto video later today. That's about it, or tomorrow.